Okay, good morning, everyone. Today's your last Bio 1A lecture, probably of your careers, except for the one or two of you that may end up lecturing in Bio 1A about 20 years from now or so. Just like to say, with the Warriors' big win last night, proved our partial pressure of oxygen theory that as soon as a high-altitude team comes down here, they can't handle the extra oxygen, and the Warriors won. Simple as that. But I do wonder how the Lakers are getting their partial pressure of oxygen. Hey, it's the 1 year I can give you guys in that direction. Usually it's the other way around. So it's been a long time coming for this. Okay, so Q&A, a question and answer review, Wednesday, May 8th, 9/11, 1:55 Dwinell. Right, Mike? No, I have 9/11 up there, don't I? Okay, need your glasses checked. Okay. Huh? Okay, Mike is very concerned about the final. Monday, May 13th, 8 to 11 a.m. in Haas Pavilion. And Mike wants to remind you that the B-Space information has been sent out. All you guys should have it and pay attention to it. I'm going to try today to get out the practice questions on B-Space. Unfortunately, our department is migrating to B-mail this weekend. I have no idea how well I can hit email over the weekend. I will try, but I don't know why they arranged it in the worst possible weekend. So I guess someone doesn't like us. Then, most importantly, starting the week of May 20th, summer activity / vacation for you guys. That's coming up real soon. I know my kids are all happy about that, except they all have to be in school until June, so they're a little jealous. Which are high school and middle school kids. Okay, today, nephron function will finish up, or continue with hormone control, and then the immune system. Okay, review from Wednesday. You know the red blood cell negative feedback system with erythropoietin, regulation of oxygen, the classic negative feedback. Again, negative feedback means keep things constant. We talked about clotting, the involvement of the platelets and the platelet plug, prothrombin, an inactive precursor, gets converted to thrombin in the pathway, thrombin being a protease. Thrombin has one key substrate, fibrinogen. Remember the O-gin means it's a larger precursor. Thrombin converts fibrinogen to fibrin, and fibrin forms the clots. It attaches to the platelet plug. Intersperses there. Okay? And what kicks on the clotting are the damage, some of the calcium, vitamin K, et cetera, from the damaged cells, as well as the protease cascade gets activated. So then talk about alveoli, which are basically air sacs in the lower recesses of your lung, where there's gas exchange across the lung capillaries. Gas exchange is high to low pressure. That's kind of the key to the whole thing. Oxygen is carried through the blood by binding as a gas to hemoglobin. And there's a positive cooperativity, so in the lungs, a little bit of oxygen binds, then a higher affinity, then a lot more binds. So it's nice, it's very efficient. Carbon dioxide, in contrast, is transported mostly, it's like 99.9%, as bicarbonate through the bloodstream. We talked about how that happens. A very small amount is bound to hemoglobin. Okay, so it's not entirely bicarbonate. What's important here is that carbonic acid, when it comes into the red blood cells, or when CO2 comes in, forms bicarbonate at the tissues, you get a proton released. The key of this proton is that actually binds hemoglobin, and that helps trigger the release of oxygen. So when it gets to the tissues, the proton comes on, hemoglobin releases the oxygen. So it's a very efficient system along those lines. And then the other related issue is carbonic anhydride is a very good example of a reversible enzyme. CO2 plus water gives you carbonic acid. In the tissues, it goes towards carbonic acid because of all the CO2. And in the lung, it goes the other direction when you want to get rid of the CO2 because you don't have a lot of CO2 there. It's a very clear example of a reversible reaction. That's important. Different sides of the reaction take place in the tissues versus the lung capillaries. You have to appreciate that to see the regulation of CO2. So any questions up to that point? Again, this is a review from Wednesday. Okay? And then very finally, we talked about oxygen dissociation is regulated by partial pressures of oxygen. And it's a saturation of hemoglobin. As your partial pressure goes up, you saturate. That's the reason, for example, at higher altitudes, you don't get up this high. If the partial pressures only reach here, you only saturate up to here, for example. There's ways to compensate for that. But if you initially go immediately to high altitude, you will not reach here because of the partial pressures. So in resting tissue, there's so much oxygen released. Active tissue goes to a partial pressure of 10, so you can release from here to here when you're active. And when you're extremely active, there's a little extra oxygen that can be released due to the Bohr shift, which is where the blood pH lowers from 7.4 to 7.2, shifts this entire curve to the right rather. And you can release a little extra oxygen. It's your final extra reserve of oxygen that you need to use under extreme circumstances. Okay? And that's a well-known phenomenon. But what drives this is partial pressures of oxygen. And that's very important. Okay, any questions on that, on these curves?
Really high partial pressure, then when we get like saturation.
Yeah, well, you can only saturate up to 100%. You can't go above that. Talk about the saturation. You can go up higher, in theory, but this would flatten out because you only have so much hemoglobin. My guess is you probably start making a little more red blood cells, perhaps, to carry it. But in general, you can only saturate. You can't saturate past 100% by definition. No, it won't be more saturated. Again, you can only saturate up to 100%. That's the definition. It's like this room. See, all the chairs are hemoglobin, right? If I want to have people sitting and there's one extra person, the number of chairs, you still have versus 10 extra people versus 100 extra people, you still have the same number of people sitting in all cases because you can only saturate implies 100%. Okay, keep thinking about it. Then we talked any other questions on that. All right. Then we got into kidney function, which we'll continue with today. The key to this whole thing is understanding that there's the capillaries are in equilibrium with interstitial fluid, which is in equilibrium with, in this case, the components of the kidney system. You'll see how that works. But first, the plumbing system, which is what we ended with. In this review, the afferent arteriole goes in the glomerulus capillaries. These capillaries, unlike most other capillaries, are semi-permeable. So they undergo filtration because you want to get rid of the waste, which gets through, but you want to keep the good stuff. And that goes into the proximal tubule. This is a nephron, by the way. It goes into the proximal tubule. We have both secretion and reabsorption. You secrete directly in waste, you take out of it good stuff. So it's a check and balance system there. Then it goes into the loop of Henle. There's a descending limb. There's the loop of Henle itself. And then there's the ascending limb. As you'll see in a few minutes, the ascending and descending limb have very different functions. That's why I'm stressing this difference right here. Then it goes into the distal tubule, where again you have reabsorption and secretion. You secrete in waste, take out nutrients. Then you shoot down the collecting duct to concentrate the solutes or the particles in the fluid or the filtrate, which then becomes the urine. Okay? This is the plumbing system. Now we're going to talk about functionality. Any questions on the plumbing system itself? Just a bunch of names. Okay? Yes?
So in this tube, we have CO2 minus and ammonium ion, right?
Let me rephrase it. In the distal and proximal tubule, you put in waste, which is ammonium ion, for example. I may have misstated what the structure was on Wednesday, as a couple people pointed out, which is good. But you get rid of good, you take in good stuff, like sodium chloride, bicarbonate, anything else that's good. You do not need to know precisely what the good stuff is and the bad waste is, just so you know one example of each. That's all. Okay? And there's tons of nutrients that get taken out. The point is you have a check and balance system here. As you go through, you're constantly taking out good stuff, throwing waste back in. All right? That's the important point. So now, let's talk about functionality here, which is a slightly more complicated issue. What goes into the afferent, I'm not going to write in the names of the structures because you're going to have them right up here. The osmolarity of the blood coming in is 300 milliosmolar. Again, your blood concentration of sodium chloride is 150 millimolar. Have you guys heard that number before in the past? Because you have one ion of sodium and one ion of chloride ion, the milliosmolar concentration is 300, because that takes into account the total number of ions. This is what counts here. And the idea is to get to the urine, which the milliosmolar concentration of this is 1,200 milliosmolar. Okay? So how do you concentrate from 300 down to 1,200? What happens is, in interstitial fluid next to the collecting duct, you create a concentration gradient. So in interstitial fluid, you have this gradient of concentration that we'll build up and see how that happens in a second. Goes from 300 to 1,200. And remember I said molecules get transported vis-a-vis interstitial fluid to equilibrium. What will happen is, in response to this gradient, the collecting duct will kick out water to try to compensate and to try to dilute. It doesn't happen because it's a continuous flow system, and you're continually making this gradient. But the idea at the end of the day, the collecting duct responds to interstitial fluid. And it sees osmolarity is greater than the blood osmolarity, and therefore releases water into the interstitial fluid. You have to see that part of it, because when we talk about the hormones, in fact, you can control this part of it when you get thirsty or dehydrated. Okay, so the end game here is move the water from the collecting duct to try to dilute what's in interstitial fluid. All right, any questions on that point? Because now we're going to put in a few more details. Okay, this is the end result. How does this happen? Well, as you go through the nephron, there's different functions. In the descending limb, the membranes here allow water permeability, but not sodium chloride. So you take out water in the descending limb of the loop of Henle. So remember, it's a continuous flow system here. As you're going through it, you're pumping out water. As a result, the inside of this is what? Higher concentration of sodium chloride, right? So in the descending limb, by both active and passive transport, you don't really need to know where the differences are. You start pumping out sodium chloride. And the amount of sodium chloride that you pump out into interstitial fluid, this is also interstitial fluid here, creates this gradient. So pumping out the water and then pumping out the sodium chloride in the other part of this loop of Henle creates the gradient. In addition, a little tiny bit, not a little bit, but a little bit of urea, which is one of the main components of urine, also gets pumped out to help stabilize the gradient. So what you're doing is as you're going through this whole system, you're pumping out water in some places, and you're pumping out sodium chloride in other places, and urea in other places, which sets up in interstitial fluid this gradient of solutes, of ions. And then when you hit the collecting duct, you just pump out water to try to meet the gradient itself, because you go from low to high solutes, so therefore you're pumping out water to try to meet that equilibrium. And that is how you concentrate your urine by about 4-fold, which is really important for survivability. And you don't want to be drinking water all the time. Fish, by the way, don't worry about this too much. Okay, as an example. All right, questions on that? Yes? Say it louder. Yeah, it's a very good question. As you go deeper into the kidney, which is really what you're asking there, as you go deeper into the kidney, you get higher solute concentrations in interstitial fluid. Okay? And there's different kinds of nephrons. I'm not getting into those differences. But the point is, what drives this is the concentration gradient in interstitial fluid drives what happens to the water content, or the level of solute and concentrations in the kidney and the nephron itself. One other point, I forgot to mention it explicitly, but that there's capillaries all over the place here. You have this constant solutes moving in and out of capillaries, moving in and out of tissues. Yes, question? It's 1,200 milliosmolar. It's 4 times blood, approximately. Except in cases when you're dehydrated or in cases when you're drinking a lot of water, an unusual amount of water. Or you're pumping out a lot of water. Okay? Which we'll get to in a second in terms of regulation. So all you do, you're concentrating. So this is how this works. You're concentrating it roughly 4-fold on the average. Okay? Yes? Don't worry about what the reader says in terms of active and passive transport. That is there for your free knowledge, free education. Just know that sodium chloride comes out. Different parts of this, pump it out actively, some of it passively. Don't worry about that. I'm not going to ask you that difference. Okay, again, for the exam, by the way, know what I say in the lecture. There's a few extra tidbits of information in the reader, and there's a few extra tidbits of information from the lecture that are not in the reader. But know what I say in the lecture. Because sometimes I put in details that I don't think are important to discuss in the lecture, that may be interesting information for those of you that want to dive into it further later on. Okay, but there is both active and passive transport. Don't worry about it. Just know that sodium chloride comes out to form the gradient. Okay? Questions? So again, this is a continuous flow. Blood is constantly going in. You have the semi-permeable filtration. Capillaries creates filtration. You have secretion and absorption. Water gets pumped out, increasing sodium chloride concentration on this side, which is now permeable to sodium chloride. The reason this works is the descending limb is not permeable to sodium chloride, whereas the ascending limb obviously is. And then you get more secretion and absorption here, goes into the collecting duct, you pump out the water to meet the gradient that you form, and you also produce a little bit of urea out there to help stabilize the gradient. It just doesn't happen one time through. It's a continuous flow. It's continually changing, it's continually setting up the gradient and pumping out water, which is what you want to do. That's the whole goal. And pumping out waste in the urine. Okay? Yes? No, the 300 is in your blood and your tissues. This is your blood osmolarity. This is what's coming into the afferent arteriole. As you sit there, for most of you, it's 300 milliosmolar. Except in your kidneys, you create this gradient. So the idea is when you have urine, it's more concentrated. So you're getting rid of solutes without the burden of giving out so much water. Else we'd have to drink 4 times more. Okay? We'll drink more water. Okay? I realize summer activities are coming up in a few weeks. I tended to start my summer activities prior to finals, though, when I was in college. But don't tell anybody. Okay? That was a long time ago, by the way. All right. So now, the system is regulated. It's very important to see the regulation. And I'll leave that up there because when one is dehydrated or you have blood volume loss, you want to regulate different parts of this system to counteract it. So let's think about this. Let's do two of these. So in the case, say you have high blood osmolarity. And how do you get that? Dehydration or like eating salty foods. Good example is anchovies, for example. You have a bunch of those, and this will happen. So what happens is the high blood osmolarity, I'll run this across the board this way, because there's going to be another pathway down here, because the hypothalamus senses the high blood osmolarity through what's called osmoreceptors. And don't worry about what those are. It allows you to sense this in the hypothalamus. So the hypothalamus then causes two things. One is you start synthesizing ADH, which is anti-diuretic hormone. An anti-diuretic hormone then goes and gets stored in the posterior pituitary. By the way, we talked about another hormone earlier that gets made and stored in the anterior pituitary. Remember what that was? If I said posterior pituitary, you'd say ADH. What else would you say? Oxytocin. There you go. Try to make those connections. So under these conditions, then ADH is secreted. And then ADH binds to receptors in the collecting duct. So ADH's target tissue is the collecting duct. Because remember, you have high blood osmolarity, so you want to pump more water into the system. And this causes the collecting duct to be more permeable, increase water permeability, and reabsorption. So one of the things that takes place is you bring in more water. So when you try to win interstitial fluid, you actually pump more water into it because your system knows that you have high blood osmolarity. And as a result, you decrease, you lower osmolarity, or in other words, you rehydrate. Okay, that's one part of it. The other part of it is the hypothalamus senses you're dehydrated, and behaviorally you become thirsty. And if the water is available, you drink more water, which together also lowers blood osmolarity. So in that case, you can see what's happening here. You have a hormonal control mechanism that says take in more water. So in other words, make the urine even more concentrated. So if you notice when you're dehydrated, you can probably tell your urine doesn't seem as watery in some ways, more colorful, right? And that's because you're pumping out more water in interstitial fluid to try to counterbalance your high osmolarity of your blood, and it makes you thirsty. So if you drink more water together, you lower blood osmolarity. Okay? Any questions on that part of the regulatory system? Any questions? Okay. So there's another part to this. I'll leave this up here, and I'll leave this up here. Now, besides high blood osmolarity, another issue that can take place is your blood volume. You reduce blood volume or blood pressure. So low blood volume or low pressure, which is more or less the same thing in this case. So what happens there? What gets sensed when your system senses low blood pressure or low blood volume? There's an apparatus called the juxtaglomerular apparatus, which is near the afferent. It's near the afferent arteriole. So if you look at the plumbing system, the juxtaglomerular apparatus is up in here. Okay, so it's in the input going into the kidney. As a result of the low blood volume or blood pressure, this releases a protease called renin, which is a protease. And renin has one particular substrate. I'll move this more down in a second. This arrow just corresponds to substrate. It converts angiotensinogen. Remember the ogin? What does ogin mean? Right, it's a larger inactive precursor. And this gets converted, with the arrow over here, to angiotensin 1. I'll just go like this. I'll put the board down in a second. Which is 10 amino acids, which is a 10 amino acid peptide. So the first part of this is low blood volume, blood pressure. The JGA, which is near the afferent arteriole, produces renin, which is a protease. Another example of a protease we've talked about. And renin has one particular substrate, converts angiotensin-ogin to angiotensin 1. However, angiotensin 1, and I'll put this right here, is not all that active. There's another enzyme called angiotensin. Just put this up here. I'll put this down in a second. Angiotensin converting enzyme, which is actually in the lung vessels, the walls of the lung vessel. And you get angiotensin 2, which is 8 amino acids. So you're cleaving 2 amino acids. And this is highly active. This is now a highly active hormone. So it's a two-step process, a protease and a protease, to give you the active hormone. Angiotensin 2, as you can imagine, is a very important hormone. Has some interesting targets. One of the targets is the arterioles. And this causes arterioles to constrict. Okay? And the way to think about this is if you have a hose with water going through it, you have a big opening, and you stick your thumb on top of it, right, and you constrict the opening, what happens to the water coming out of the hose? What would you say about the pressure of the water coming out? It goes way up, right? Everybody can visualize that? Okay? And by the arterioles constricting, this will increase blood pressure, which is part of what happens when you have low blood volume. You also have low blood pressure. So it's one way of increasing the pressure back up, strictly by physically constricting the arterioles. Does everybody see that? The second thing that happens is angiotensin 2 has receptors in the adrenal cortex. Okay? And you know this is a gland, an organ that's near and dear to our hearts, because the other thing